Welcome to 2021, where coronavirus pushed us face first into a revolutionised work-from-home routine, embracing standing desks, flat-screen monitors and elasticated pants. But when it comes to clocking off at 5 o'clock...
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
According to the Centre for Future Work, the average Aussie is now gifting the boss around 6 hours of unpaid work weekly, or 319 hours a year.
Rude. Are you kidding me?
We probably work too much, certainly compared with many European nations. They work fewer hours, but they're still high-income, high-productivity nations.
As a collective, that unpaid overtime adds up.
It equates to over $200 a week out of people's pockets. That's $125 billion a year, 2 months of unpaid labour.
Help me, I'm poor.
The blurred work-life lines have also pushed employers' expectations of employee availability up by a whopping 26%. What work-life balance?
Work hours tend to bleed into what should be non-work hours. Time spent at leisure, with family, that's really important, and it's bad for people's stress levels and mental health.
Research also shows a whopping 39% of workers say their employers monitor their activity while home. We're talking surveillance software, spy cams, even movement sensors to check when someone's typing.
I got someone to cover for me.
Other countries are cracking down. Last week, Portugal made it illegal to text employees after hours. In France, if your employer emails on the weekend, you best believe you can take them to court.
Incidentally, France also has a shorter standard working week than Australia does.
No, I'll post it later.
And I think those sorts of measures are really important for addressing that imbalance between working life and non-work life.
So is it time we got on board?
Gosh, those stats around home surveillance scare me. Like, what kind of manager thinks that surveilling their staff is going to get anything but a really uninterested, unengaged workforce that feels like they just don't have any autonomy? Like, how is that ever going to get the best out of people?
Rach, I hate to break it to you, but your employers are watching you right now.
What a horrible way to find out.
What a shame for all this, though, because what it did do for work-life balance and families and kids being at school, being able to do school pickup, being home, you know, when kids come home from school, all those sorts of things. There were some real positives there for a while. I just hope the negatives don't end up outweighing the positives, because currently that's way too much work to be doing for free.
It won't be a uniform experience. There'll be people who would have that. But I kind of feel like we always... Whenever there's the promise that you can work less because technology is going to solve it, it doesn't work out that way. Like, I remember when people were saying, oh, the fax machines come along and you'll only have to work an hour a day because...
Did they say that?
Yeah, there were all kinds of predictions like that, yeah. And it just never, ever happens that way. Because I think what happens is employers go, oh, you've got 6 hours that you could use. You were, like, go and use them, please. And then that's kind of where we end up.
Oh, and when the Tamagotchi came along, it was like, oh, we've got all this time. Anyway, let's move on.
The bottom 20% get nothing. They're really unfair tax cuts.
People want to see much stronger action from the government when it comes to climate change.
It's no coincidence that we have a wages crisis in Australia.
Transitioning to net zero emissions, it doesn't seem like there's much room for gas.